Hello and welcome to Generative Geek. Today's episode is about adding memory to chatbots. Now, Langchain and OpenAI and Claude and all of these models have made it very easy for us to build chatbots, but most of these chatbots are by default stateless. What I mean by that is that, when you when you take when you send a message to the chatbot, it will reply back basis the context and the intent that it understands from your message. But as a next step, what generally happens is when you send a follow-on message, and this is, I'm not talking about chat GPT here, logging into the chat GPT console, but when you are talking to the agent, to the model through an API, right? That is a stateless conversation. Now, in that stateless conversation, the next message that the model receives, it has no idea, it has forgotten, it has no idea of what you are talking about, right? So it's very important that we know how to add history, how to add some sort of memory so that the model understands the context when you pass the next message back to it. So today's topic is going to be about adding memory to chatbots. We'll build first a very small example of how you can use Langchain and OpenAI and start sending messages to the API of OpenAI through Langchain. You get back a response, and then I'll also demonstrate what I mean by a memory less or a state less kind of an execution, right? We'll see a quick example. Next, we'll start adding memory to the chatbot. We'll add three types of memories. I'll demonstrate adding memory through three ways, not three types of memories, but three ways: chat message history, conversation buffer memory, and conversation summary memory. These are the various classes of modules within Langchain, so we're going to use them, right? So let's get started, guys. Without any further ado, I already have my environment created. These are the packages that I have installed: Langchain OpenAI, Python.env, and OpenAI. Now, I've stored them in my requirements.txt, and within, I'll also create a new file called .env, and I'll just paste in my keys here. Don't worry if you see the key. I'm going to basically just remove the keys when I'm going to change the key before I publish this video. So you won't be able to use the key even though I'm showing you the key. So in your .env file, have like a variable called OpenAI underscore API underscore key, and that should have your OpenAI API key. Next, let's just get started, right? So your .env is there. You have your requirements. I already have a virtual environment created. If you don't have one, you should create one. There's a video I have included within this video. You should be seeing that right now. As a link, you can go back to it and watch how to create an environment. Now let's assume that the environment is created. We are all set. So what do we first do? As a general step, what we first do is we import a lot of stuff, right? So I'm going to import OS. I'm going to import, okay, sorry, this is plain text, so I need to convert it back into Python. We'll import Langchain. At this point, I'll just, see if everything is working fine or not. Okay, IPy because this is a new environment, so IPy was not there. So Jupyter is, VS Code is just importing that. Next, what we'll do is we'll import a few other things. So first is I'll import from .env. I'm going to import load underscore .env. Now this is the library that will help me find the API keys and it'll actually load those API keys. So I don't have to actually publish the API key here. It is already there in my .env file. I don't have to show it to the world. I showed it to you. But generally think about it this way, that when you have a .getignore file, you can add your .envs in that .getignore, so that when you are pushing it to your version control, you're not pushing your keys also to the version control, right? So with this, now the various keys are loaded. Let's get started, right? As a first step, what I'll do is I'll just create from Langchain underscore OpenAI. I'll import chat OpenAI, right? So, and what I'll also do is I'll import a ChatPrompt template. So from Langchain underscore core dot prompts dot chat, import ChatPrompt template, right? So we'll import these two. And if you want to ever learn more about what a ChatPrompt template is, my suggestion is generally always go back to Google, give chat prompt template, Langchain, and read the official document, right? So when you go to the document, you understand a lot of stuff, like, hey, what is it? Okay, a template looks like this. Then you invoke the template, you pass the name placeholder values, like here name is a placeholder, user input is another, and you pass this. That becomes your prompt. Okay, then that prompt can probably be sent back downstream to upstream to the model, right? So the going back to the document, if you don't understand, because some Langchain's document is like amazing. It has, if you look at it, it has examples, it tells you what this does, it gives you several examples, it gives you everything about the variables. So you should go through it, right? So, and it my attempt with these videos is not just to demonstrate how to do things, but to actually teach you, right? So this is what we'll do. Next, I'll just declare an LLM. I will create, we have already imported Chat OpenAI. I'm going to set the temperature to 0. When you set the temperature to 0, you are basically reducing the entropy of the model. So you want the model to reply back to you with no hallucination. So it should reply back with all the with the knowledge base that it already has, right? So I'm going to do that. With this, the LLM will get created, and if I run this, if my keys are available, then basically this will work, right? If I just want to have to show you, maybe I'll remove this H for now, and I'll save this, and we'll come back and restart the kernel. And when we restart and I again go through it, you should see some error, right? Okay, no, surprising. Maybe this is not saved. It is. Ideally, if my key is changed, it should not clear all outputs. Okay, now let's just run it again. Okay, I don't know why it's because I have changed the key. Um, Unless it's reading the key from somewhere else, which should not be the case, right? Um, we can even pass the API key here, which is os.getEnv, and this is how it is. But I've changed the key, so let's not get into it right now. I'll maybe show it to you in another video. Now let's create a chat prompt template, right? So we imported chat prompt template. Now let's create one. I'll call it prompt underscore template, and it will be chat prompt template dot from underscore messages, right? And what we'll do is we'll pass it a list. It takes a list of system and human messages. So system message here will be, and this has to be a tuple. So system message here is uh, you are a helpful assistant who knows a lot about Apple, right? Apple as a company. Okay. So that's my system message. Now I want to just see, pass in the human message. So the human message is uh, respond to a question, respond to this question, and then we'll pass in the question, right? So this becomes your template. Now it has one placeholder, which we are calling question. And if you tuple object is not callable, something went wrong. What did I do? Okay, I missed a comma here, right? So with this, now the prompt template is ready. What we'll do is we'll call a variable called full prompt, and I'll use the prompt template to now fill in the values. So you do that using the format underscore messages. And what you will do here is you will say whatever are the placeholders, like, in our case it was only one. um, what is Apple's mission statement, right? GitHub Copilot is giving a very nice question for us. I had a different one on Steve Jobs, but that's okay, we'll use that again, right? So prompt underscore template. Okay, there's a spelling mistake. And now the full prompt is also available. Next step is LLM, the LLM that we created here, which is Chat OpenAI. You take that LLM and you pass it the full prompt, right? So Now what is happening is, okay, now something went wrong, incorrect API key provided. So actually, sorry, earlier we were trying a lot. What happens is your API key basically gets called only when it has to actually send a message to the model, right? So when I'm just creating an instance of the chat OpenAI, there is no actual call happening. So I'll need to again restart. So earlier what had happened is this H was missing. Now I've added it back. We'll clear all outputs. We have restarted. So it should now work is my belief. Yeah. And what you get back from this is an AI message. It says Apple designs Macs, the best personal computer, and all of that. How many tokens were used? How many were prompt tokens? How many were total tokens? Right. So it gives you a good sense of what happened behind the scenes. Now, let's just. I want to demonstrate to you that hey, okay. One question comes here often is, what is there in the prompt, right? Because we saw the output, but we don't see the prompt. So we'll just print the prompt, and I'll just maybe delete this terminal. And if you see the prompt, right, there was a system message, you are a helpful assistant, and what is Apple's, this is a human message, right? So this is a list of messages where you have a system message and you have a human message. This is what our prompt is. Now let's just ask it again that hey, you know what, it has just given us Apple's mission statement. Now I want to again call the same thing but with a different question, right? So this time let's just have a different question, and I'll ask it, what did I ask you just before this message? So for this, when you look at it, right, let me just run it. If you look at it, what did I ask earlier? It says, hey, earlier you asked about Apple as a company and its products. How can I assist you further with that topic? But I actually did not ask it about Apple as a company. I asked a very specific question. What is Apple's mission statement, right? And how it is able to say that, hey, probably you asked something about Apple is because the chat prompt has a system message which says you are a helpful assistant who knows a lot about Apple as a company. Now, here you can see that, what did I ask earlier? It should have been you asked me about Apple's mission statement. That's not what I got back, right? So let's fix this, right? It's making some sort of a guess, but that's not a correct guess. So let's fix this. The way to fix it is, now I'm going to talk about three types of message memory classes that we are going to use. So the first one that I want to talk about is the history chat message history. Yeah. We'll use chat message history. And so before we start using chat message history, let's just import chat message history. So the way to do it is from langchain.memory, import chat message history, right? Again, let's go back to the documentation once. I want to show you what the documentation has. Maybe sometimes it's tough to find, so I just do like a Google search. It helps me get there. So from Langchain, this is the chat message history. You can see how they are using it. They create a history object, chat message history object, and then they add user messages and AI messages. And when you start doing that, you basically end up getting this kind of a list, right? This is what you are actually building by hand right now. So let me just show you, right? So we have imported this. We'll also import. I already have that imported, but let me just import OpenAI again from Langchain dot import chat OpenAI, though I have it imported already. Sometimes some things you do just as a practice, because maybe there are people who are watching this video from the middle, right? Or sometimes just for the from a completion perspective, right? There are two different segments here, right? So chat OpenAI, and I'll set the temperature to 0, and no need to put the key is auto fetched like we have seen. And what we'll do is we'll create a history like the same way we saw in the document. We'll create a history, right? So that we have created now. So we have the object ready with us. Now let's start adding some messages to the object. So add AI message. That's the first thing we'll do. If you look at it, when we were creating the prompt template, we had like a system and a human, right? So the same thing we are trying to now replicate here using an AI message. So I'm going to say, hey, hi, and the AI message is that you are hi, ask me anything about Apple as a company. Yeah, so that's the message that we have added. Now I'll add a human message, history.add underscore human underscore message. That's the method you need to call. And we'll say what is Apple's mission statement. Next, once you are done, what you can do is you can add a AI message, or let's just do this. I'll not get one step ahead. We'll call the chat. This is basically the chat is the LLM that we have instantiated, and we'll call invoke on it, and that's history.messages, right? So we'll pass this to the if you just want to understand what history.messages is, before I do this, let me just type history.messages so that you can see what history.messages has, right? Has no add underscore human underscore message. Sorry, that's not human, it should be user. Add user message, right? So if you look at it, it's a list again, the same way that we saw earlier. This was the list we had. It had system message and human message. This time we have AI message and human message. So AI message is, hi, ask me anything about Apple as a company. Human message is, what is Apple's vision mission statement, right? So that's basically the list we have now. Now what we are going to do is we are going to basically call chat on it, right? We are going to call chat.invoke and history.messages, right? Now let's see what comes back, right? So it's going to take some time. Now if you see, this is the AI message that I have got back, right? So the Apple's mission statement is Apple designs Macs and all of that, until here is basically the message that I have got back. What we'll do is, whatever message I have got back, I want to put that message as an AI message again into this list, right? Automatically. So one way is, I'll say response is equal to chat.invoke, and then we'll add history.add AI message, and I'll add response in that, right? So that's one way. Let's just do that, right? I'm again running it. Now every time you run it, there is a cost, right? There's a tiny cost, so you have to be aware of it. Now let's just see how the history.messages looks like. Now if you see, there is an AI message which says ask me anything about Apple. There is a human message, and then there's again a response that comes back in the form of an AI message. So this is how it looks like, right? So what we'll do is, we now have the history that has been done. I'll quickly add another user message, which will be not about what did I ask you earlier, but maybe I'll just say, hey, can you summarize your last response, right? So I'll just ask it to summarize its last response, and then quickly we'll add AI message to this thing where I'm going to invoke. So here what I've done is I've done some sort of a clubbing, right? Instead of calling chat.invoke, I'm just passing this within this method, right? So this output of chat.invoke will be passed as a AI message and will be added, right? So we can see history.messages after this. So this is a new question that we are printing. So you will see that this is a new message that we have here, right? So I'm going to just say history.messages here, and now you can see our first question was, ask me anything about Apple. What is Apple's mission statement? Then comes the AI message, and once your AI message is done, then the human message comes in here. Can you summarize your last response? And this is what the AI message has done, right? If you look at it, it took 119 prompt tokens. Total tokens were 166 in this response. Earlier, the total tokens were 105. Okay, so the summarization took more tokens in a way, right? So but this is now a summarized thing that it has sent me, it has given me. What I'll now do is, I'll now ask it that, hey, you know what did I ask you first? That's the message I want to send it. So I'll just say history dot add message. What was the first thing I asked you, right? And now I'm going to call chat dot invoke history.messages. Okay, this is clear. Now let's just see. I'm not saving this thing again in the list. You asked about Apple's mission statement. See how clearly it has said that you asked me about Apple's mission statement. So this is how you add memory into your chatbots, right? So this was using chat message history. Now I have two other things that I want to talk about when you are adding chat memories, right? So now let's go through, we have already seen chat message history. Now let's go through the other method that I want to talk about, which is conversation buffer memory, right? Again, just like we did last time, what I'll do is I'll quickly show you the documentation here, conversation buffer. So how to use this memory allows for storing messages and then extracts the messages in a variable. So in case of conversation buffer memory, what happens is you save some context, you keep saving that context, and see here they are using it in a chain. You can actually just go through this document, you will get good idea. I'll now show you how I use it, right? So I'll show you how I use it. What we'll do is we'll have to first import conversation buffer memory. So from langchain.memory import conversation buffer memory, right? So that's the first import you want to do. I have already imported OpenAI, but you might want to do from langchain underscore OpenAI import chat OpenAI. Um, Secondly, what you want to do is um, you want to now you create a chain. So from langchain.chains import conversation chain. Again, same way that we did earlier. If you want to langchain underscore, also import OpenAI, right? So we'll also import OpenAI. We'll import these three things. Conversation chain. Let's just quickly see what a conversation chain is. Langchain. So customizing conversational memory, conversation chain. If you chain to have a conversation and load context from memory. So Langchain has this concept of chain where you can continue to group things, like build logical sequence uh, of a prompt, of an LLM, of how the parser should parse. And I have not covered the parsers till now, but let's just say you want to have OpenAI used as a model, and you want to send it some prompt, and whatever output you get, you want to then use that output to parse it as, let's say, a JSON or a CSV or something, right? So those, or a string, you can have those parsers defined. So this becomes like a chain. So you can define that chain. And conversation chain basically helps you have a conversation and loads context from memory, right? So, but let's just see, right? How it all comes together. It'll be very easy. So you will quickly understand. So let me just define an OpenAI LLM, temperature set to 0, and we'll say memory is equal to conversation buffer memory, and we'll say size. So here what you do is you declare how many last instances you want this buffer to hold, right? It's like a sliding window. As new conversations come in, the old ones will pop out, right? So this is how it works. And then you will create a buffer chain. So we'll say buffer chain is equal to conversation chain. We'll pass it the chat. We'll basically pass it the LLM. And like I told you, um, this is chain. So I'm just creating a chain, and I'm saying verbose should be true, right? So that it just outputs whatever it gets, and we are okay with it, right? So we are just going to say verbose is equal to true. This way your buffer chain is set. Now what I want to do is I want to call the predict on the chain. So I'm going to call the predict on the chain. So, and my predict is again the same thing, which is what is ask me anything about what is Apple's mission statement. I'll ask this as the first question. So I'll say, hey, this is the first question. Then I'll say buffer underscore chain dot predict. I'll say summarize your last response, right? So, and then I can even say buffer underscore chain dot predict, and you can do whatever you want. I'm just asking it to summarize it in even lesser words, right? And I'm just basically adding various things, and then I'm saying buffer in what was the first thing I asked you, right? So let's see what comes back, right? So I have, in the buffer chain, I have 4 things added now, right? So let's see what happens from here, right? Okay, I got a has no attribute handlers. I'm getting an error here, and the error is coming from uh, Buffer underscore chain is conversation chain. Buffer underscore chain dot predict. What is this? Conversation Langchain dot chains. Import conversation chain from Langchain. I'm just trying to figure out where the problem is. I know where the problem is. It should be input is equal to, I need to pass in this as an input. Um, so we'll pass this as an input. Yeah. And now let's just say, so here you can see how beautifully it is showing up. Let's just see, right? So let me quickly walk you through. So it says entering new conversation chain. The following is a friendly conversation between a human and an AI. The AI is talkative and all that. Describe what a language model is. Okay. So let's just say maybe there was some old context, right? So what is Apple's mission statement? Apple's mission statement is to bring the best user experience to its customers. Then we say summarize your last response. My last response was about, which is focused on providing the best user experience. Prompt, the following is a friendly, which finishes the chain. What is Apple's mission statement? Summarize your last response. What was the first thing? Summarize it in even lesser words, and then it says Apple's is to create user friendly. What was the first thing I asked you? You asked me about Apple's mission statement. So this is, guys, this is how you use a conversation buffer memory. So this is so far what we have covered is chat message history, conversation buffer memory. Now let me just quickly cover the last thing that I wanted to talk about here, which is conversation summary memory. Now, one good way is to basically just keep summarizing all the information that you gather. And for that, now I'm going to use conversation summary memory. So conversation summary memory class from Langchain, it summarizes the conversation over time. And it basically, if you have a long conversation and you ask the model to just summarize whatever has been done till now, it will condense the information. So this, what this means is that the chat model can now remember key pieces of context. So it doesn't have to remember everything, but it remembers key pieces of context without needing to actually store and process the entire conversation history. So here, if you look at it, earlier in conversation buffer memory, it was actually storing all of those records, right? Same with chat message history. Now here in conversation summary memory, it will, our goal is that, hey, you don't need to store everything. You can just condense the information and keep that condensed output with you. So we'll first import, we'll say from langchain dot, from langchain dot memory, import conversation summary memory. From langchain underscore OpenAI, import chat OpenAI and OpenAI, right? And now let's just describe our LLM. So our LLM is, we are defining the LLM as chat is equal to OpenAI, temperature is 0. We can even describe a model name, but I'm not doing that right now. Otherwise, if you had to do, you can just say model underscore name, and we can say, hey, use GPT hyphen 3.5 hyphen turbo hyphen instruct, and this becomes like the model that this thing will use. Next, we define a memory, and we'll say the memory is a conversation summary memory, where we pass it the, what is the LLM that it has to use, right? So we are saying use the LLM that I have created, and it's there in chat. Now I'll create a summary chain. So this is, so they see there are two things. One is memory, the other is the LLM, right? And now I'm chaining them together. So I'm calling it a summary chain, and my summary chain will be nothing but it is a conversation chain. I've already imported this, where I'm now specifying that LLM is chat, memory is memory, and verbose has to be true, so that we can see the outputs, right? So next, what once this chain is ready, we'll start adding items to the chain. So summary underscore chain dot predict, we are asking it to predict, again, let's use the same thing that we asked this guy, where we said input is equal to what is Apple's mission statement. I'll use the same thing so that you can see how different ways of storing memory behave. Next, I'll ask it the same input that I asked earlier, which was uh, summarize your last response. Let me just copy all of this, paste it here so that I can now quickly copy paste, cut, paste, summary underscore chain dot predict. Uh, Again, we'll say input is equal to summarize it in even lesser words. And then I'll finally ask it that uh, here when we were using buffer memory, we were this was again a chain, and we were giving it the all the things that we wanted from it, right? So now I have a summary chain, though this is not the best use of a summary chain. And I'll show you one more example as a benefit. But let's see what happens when we do this, right? So it is entering into a new conversation. It says current conversation, human asks about Apple's mission statement, and AI explains that it is focused on providing the best user experience. What was the first thing I asked you? You asked about Apple's mission statement. It is focused. So it is not just telling me that, hey, you only asked about Apple's mission statement. It is also giving me other things. But let's just say I ask it a completely different thing now, right? I'll not ask it this. So we'll again reinstantiate it so that it doesn't have old data, and I'm going to ask it a very different set of information. I'll say, what is Apple's mission statement? Then I'll say, is it better than Google's? Then it will say, uh, why do you think so? Because it will either respond in saying that, hey, it is better, or it will say it is not better. In your view, is it better or not? And then I'll say, why do you think so? How can this, what can be done to change the opinion? Let's just say, right? I'm just giving it very different information, right? So what is Apple's mission statement? It is going to respond back with something. Human asks, AI explains, why do you think so? Best user experience. The human then asks if it is better, to which the AI, that is subjective question. Both companies have different goals. Google's mission is to organize information. What can be done to change the opinion? Well, that depends on whose opinion you are referring to. If it is the general public's opinion, then it would require a strategic marketing campaign. If it is the opinion of a, then in a personalized manner. However, it is important to note that changing someone's opinion is not always possible, right? So you saw that how this chain actually got executed, and how a summary chain is basically not keeping all of the messages, but only keeping a quick summary of what all has happened. So this is the current conversation, right? So this, it's not keeping all of the messages that were sent. It is only keeping the summary. So this is it, guys. I hope you understood. You had a good learning experience. We talked about 3 types of ways of storing messages: chat message history, conversation buffer memory, and conversation summary memory. If you enjoyed, if you learned something, please do like, subscribe. It will be very useful. Thank you so much.